Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I guess we can say Barka de Salah, even though in the circumstances, it's probably in living memory, we haven't had this kind of a Barka de Salah before. I'm here alongside Asukwo James. Good morning, Asukwo.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Indeed. Um, uh, well, it depends on where you are. Of course, you're all over the country. You're also abroad as well, listening to us. Actually, I was just going to quip about the weather. And the weather won't be uniform all over the place. The weather is sort of chill here. It's cool. Sort of drizzling, showering, not big, not big weather concerns. But it's cool. That's the important thing.
But it was heavy in the as in very early in the morning when
Yeah,
it started,
yeah.
and windy too. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, here we are, and we'd actually like to pick up where we left off on Friday. Now, on Friday, Azuko and I were looking at goings on or alleged goings on in the Lagos State House of Assembly, because there have been reports in the press where everybody is quoting an online news platform, for the content of their report, which alleges grievous situations, grievous offenses, or potential offenses, since these things have to be tried. But we had people from the assembly come on and speak to us, and they said they just couldn't make very much out of it. That, in short, they gave the impression that this whole thing was largely cooked up. Now we have to hear the other side of the story, because not everybody is going to look at it like that. And so we reached across, we reached out. And the interesting thing here is that nobody, not one legislator in the Lagos State House of Assembly actually wants to come forward or is prepared to come forward and go on record as stating, the opposite side of the case. I don't know, well, I just don't know, but that's what we found. We couldn't get. There's the usual right of reply. And so if any legislator saw it differently from what they heard from the legislators that did appear on Friday, we invited them. We wanted them to come forward and, give us their side of the story. Not one was willing. But we said, okay, just as on Friday, there were also, what are these groups? Civil society groups.
Society groups.
So we tracked down, as it were, a couple of civil society groups that also saw it alternatively from the way it was presented by the House members on Friday. I'm talking about, well, we have two of them. We have Mr. Adeoluwa Adebayo. He'll be joining us on the phone. He's creative associate at Enough is Enough Nigeria. Good morning, Mr. Adeoluwa.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you very much for staying, for being with us this morning. And then we also have on Skype Mr. Gabriel Okewo. Mr. Gabriel Okewo is principal lead at Budget. Good morning, Mr. Okewo.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Indeed.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, our pleasure as well. Yeah, so as we say, because it's been a bit difficult from our point of view, because we would have liked to hear back from the legislators, if there were any, who saw it differently. But as I told you, there's something of a problem. But let me introduce, let me briefly, very, very briefly, based on what they themselves have published, Budget. Well, Budget, Budget has put on its on its website that it actually, helps government. It has a data-driven approach. Budget tracks the impact of its work in Nigeria. We ensure that we communicate how we engage citizens, hold government accountable, support public institutions to their stakeholders. And the list among their sponsors, let me see now, the list among their sponsors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Ford Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, Luminate, Oxfam, Indigo, and Osiwa, apart from UNDEF. Mr. Gabriel Okewo, that was taken from your website, so I'm sure you agree that that is correct.
Very correct.
Okay.
Very correct.
Okay. So we wanted to see how you can interface with this particular situation that is being reported. Do you have any enlightenment that you can put into the situation? Because Sahara Reporters, by the way, that largely everybody else is quoting, they had written that according to documents they had cited. Are there such documents? Because that was one of the contentions of the Lagos State House of Assembly.
Okay. So, funny enough, in your introduction, you had said that you have brought two civil society on board this morning to come and talk on the other side of the story, since you had members of the assembly in the studio last Friday. Unfortunately, both and EIE that I see on TV sets this morning, we are not members of Sahara Reporters, but we are civil society organization.
I agree with you, sir, and I did not in any way, shape, or form mean to imply such. The only time I mentioned them was to state that that was what other media were quoting as their source, you know, but not. I'm not suggesting that you are any member of Sahara Reporters.
Sahara Reporters is a peer organization, and yes, even we had to release a press statement sometimes last week because the allegations were becoming too many, right?
Yes.
It's as if every day there is a new one that is being uncovered. And the right thing to do in our efforts and our mandate to promote transparency and accountability in Nigeria is for us as an organization to call on agencies of government, anti-corruption agencies, to investigate this matter.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that was exactly what we have done. And it is on that premise that I'm also happy to contribute to this discussion this morning.
Thank you. I accept that. So if I understand it correctly from what you've just said, you also, as it were, are hearing it just very much like everybody else is hearing and reading the reports. And you are saying, look, if there are these many, perhaps it behoves the appropriate government institution to cause some sort of investigation to happen so that we can get to the bottom of it. Is that your, that's your perspective?
Very correctly.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
The information we gathered from the media, right, served as a base for our own action. And the very first step that we can take from that information coming from a peer organization, a media organization, is to call on anti-corruption agency to investigate the matters, to investigate all the revelations and establish for us if indeed they are true. And if they are true, then to use the instrument of the law to pursue it accordingly. Okay. And aside from the instrument of the law, there are also steps that even citizens can take themselves in pursuing this.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Okewo. Also, as I did say, we have Mr. Adebayo on the line, Mr. Adeolua Adebayo, Creative Associate at Enough is Enough. Again, coming back to you, Mr. Adebayo, maybe could you give us a bit of perspective? I imagine that you also, you know, you're sort of similar, if not identical in scope to what the other, you know, agency is doing. That is to say, it's probably all in the public good. Could you briefly introduce Enough is Enough, please?
EIE, Enough is Enough EIE Nigeria is a network of individuals and organizations whose work is basically to promote public accountability and citizen engagement in Nigeria. We've been doing this for 10 years now, and I think March 16th this year was our 10th year anniversary. And basically, we've been involved in everything from the Enough is Enough protest in 2010 to Occupy Nigeria. Together with projects, we've been involved in #GoPunas, which is basically calling for transparency in the National Assembly. And we drive the Office of the Citizen campaign, which is basically that the Office of Citizen is the highest office in the land, and government officials who are elected work for the citizens of the country.
Okay.
The case at hand, basically, they all based on media reports, and it will be actually sincere. Most other corruption cases that we've had, and period cases that we had in various years, maybe it's the Adiosun case or it's the Stella Odua case, are usually based on media reports. And while people might have one or two indications about the platform in question, the truth is it's too much, still March 22, I think. And as of last Friday, about 12 reports have been given out about a particular individual at an institution. It feels that agencies who are responsible should actually investigate. We've endorsed budget press statement, and which is basically say that OTFCC should investigate and the ICCC. And in one of the statements, in one of the reports by our reporters, they had indicated that EFCC was actually investigating the office of Speaker of the Lagos State Assembly, Mr. Obasa, in 2018, and we've asked that if there's any truth to that, EFCC should state whether the investigation was concluded, and if it was concluded, they should state what the outcome of the investigation was. If it's not concluded, we would like them to take into cognizance recent reports in the media and conduct an investigation based on that.
Okay then, Mr. Adebayo, thank you very much. I'm going to take a quick break now, so please do stay with us, and same goes with Mr. Okeo. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. We were away for a bit, but we're back, and we're reprising, as it were, a subject that we had on Friday when we're looking into allegations of financial impropriety at the Lagos State House of Assembly. On Friday, we had the chairman of the Finance Committee as well as chairman of the Information Committee, and they had given us to understand that they just didn't know where all of this was coming from. The Speaker has threatened to sue, but apparently they're still mulling that over. And so the point of view of the Lagos State House of Assembly from its representatives that spoke with us on Friday was that this is just sort of a campaign of calumny. Where did it come from? Why does it exist? Mostly sort of a metaphoric shrug of the shoulders. Can't say exactly where all of this is coming from. Today, we're looking into it from the point of view of, is there another side to the story? And in that quest, oh, by the way, I should say that try as we would, we couldn't get anybody, not even one legislator that wished to come on and be on record speaking for the other side of the story, if indeed there is another side of the story. So we've reached out to Enough is Enough, Nigeria, and we have Mr. Adebayo on the phone with us as we speak, and we also have from Budget, Mr. Gabriel Okeowo. Both gentlemen have explained to us that the way they work is when they hear things that are going on and on and on, and it's not stopping, which is one of the complaints that Lagos State House of Assembly also had, that it's incessant. It's just going on. There have been warnings. They warn now, another one will come on. So Mr. Okeo was telling us that, well, that's how they were observing it too, and they felt that there was a need to, invite the appropriate organ of government to come in and see if they could get to the bottom of it, seeing as there doesn't seem to be any other way around this particular matter. Now, Asukwa James, my colleague in the studio, probably has, you have something for Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, of Principal Lead at Budget?
Yeah, Mr. Gabriel, I know Budget is also into, looking at books from either the State House of Assembly or the federal government or the state government. I don't know if you actually carried out any sort of investigation to check if the figures being bandied around tallies with, the figures that the House of Assembly actually, budgeted for in their books. Did you at any time, carry out any investigation aside what Sarah reporters are actually putting out?
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, all these revelations, or is it revelation or allegations now, has been coming out in a rush. And yes, we do deep analysis of budget documents and where they are available. And that is why one of the hallmark of our advocacy is to make budget documents publicly available. It is not a favor that government will be doing a citizen when budget document is available. It's right, because these are documents that put together the development plan or how revenues that are being generated in a state or in a nation are going to be spent, especially in the case of Lagos State. Lagos State is doing well in terms of collection of taxpayers, taxes, right? So if there is any state that should really be accountable to people, it should be Lagos State, right? Coming out and making their books plain. But a quick looking through the books of the budget and how fund has been allocated or been spent for the Lagos State House of Assembly. One of the things that came out, which then also buttressed the video that we had where the Speaker of the House of Assembly was having an interview with the very prominent journalist, Daily Momodu, yesterday. And he made mention of a very careless speech where he said, "Nino lowo, money is meant to be spent." I, as a citizen, this is not for budget. As a citizen, I take that as a very careless talk, right? Because money is not just meant to be spent. Money is meant to be spent for the development of the people, right? But if you look at allocations that have been going to Lagos State House of Assembly, our quick review shows us what the Speaker said yesterday. He said they have not said I've stolen money. They have only said I've spent money. Money is meant to be spent. Is this money within the budget? Is it approved? And if it is approved, so you want to hide under that. But if we look at it, a situation where over 50%, we have cases where above 50% of budgetary allocation to House of Assembly goes into overhead, right? You have about 40% goes into capital expenditure. Then you now have a peanut of maybe 4%, 5% that goes into personnel. So really, if you look at the personnel, it is not so much of a big amount of money. So you don't want to fault them on the side of personnel. But when you look at overhead, the situation where overhead is now far more than capital expenditure, is more than so a lot of these allegations, from what we are seeing, are hidden under what is called overhead. So you have things like training, you have things like party, you have all sorts. And the question is it add off? You run a business. Let's bring this back to the business model. You run a business model where your overhead is like 4 times what goes into maintaining the infrastructure that sustain your business. And I think this is where the
yeah, I think someone was talking, not realizing that Mr. Adebayo was live. Someone was talking to him. Okay. But please continue. Did you finish, Mr. Kewo?
Yes.
Okay.
So I said yes. If you heard me clearly, or you want me to repeat myself?
No, okay. Go on.
Yes. Yeah. He said he's finished if we heard him clearly,
okay.
which we did.
Okay, Mr. Adebayo. Now we can you hear me, Adebayo?
Sir?
Yes.
Adebayo.
I'm with you.
Okay, now we are talking about in terms of accountability. You know, should we be looking at how accountable should we be putting our leaders or our public office holders? Because I think that is where enough has its own strong points. So are we looking at, in terms of accountability, should the House come out and say this is what we actually put out there as to be spent, and this is what we have spent, so that this whole matter,
break it down more minutely.
Yes, exactly, so that this matter is done and buried.
I'll tell you you're right, and it's all about accountability. Like I think I've stated there, we drive the Office of Citizen campaign, and it basically said that the Office of Citizen direct office in the land, simply because citizens elect leaders, and the way the democracy works is like a trust. collective comes together and say these are the people who would appoint to work for us and do certain things for us on our behalf while we go about our daily business, because we basically, for one reason or the other, they attend to that. And so if we look at it that way, then means people either in the executive or in the legislature, particularly the legislature, because they represent the people, serve the people. And if you then serve someone, then you're accountable to that. Just like you, Mr. Yuri, are accountable to your employers at TVC, and I am accountable to my employers at of Nigeria. So it then means that members of the legislature are more than enough accountable to the people.
Okay.
And I will also say that, when I was very interested, I watched the interviews from Friday, and I will say that members of Lagos State Assembly need to realize that obedience is not to the speaker, neither is it to the chambers, but to the people who they represent. And more important, because legislature is meant to keep their executive in check. They provide oversight functions over various ministries in the Lagos State.
Sure.
And even like Mr. Baza said in his interview with Disney, I served as chairman, before he became chairman, and in various committees and advisory function. And like the popular saying is, people must come to equity, must come with clean hands. And if they will be providing, if Lagos State Assembly and the Speaker will provide oversight functions over the executives, they themselves, their hands must be clean.
Okay.
And okay.
Okay. I'm just curious. In introducing budget, I tried to tell, and when you also, thank you for doing so, briefly introduced enough is enough. The matter of sponsors, we didn't get to that. Who are your sponsors?
Our sponsors are primarily citizens of Nigeria. If I will start from that, they are our number one sponsor. Yes, while we from time to time get grants from organizations like the Media Network and Ford Foundation and a few others like that, our number one sponsors are people who we call our enablers, who are everyday Nigerians who contribute to, who donate to the work we do, to enable us to the work we do. More importantly, the kind of work we do is not in itself very donor-friendly. Not many people want to fund organizations who are calling out government. So we more or less rely on the goodwill of every Nigerian to donate and support the work we do. And people can freely go to our website, CIE.ng, to see what we do. And as many people have feel that they would like to support this kind of initiative, can as well donate and become one of our enablers. It brings about the work of accountability in Nigeria.
Okay. Mr. Adebayo, I said in my intro, and I've said it again apart from the intro, try as we would, we couldn't get anybody from any legislator from the Lagos State House of Assembly who was willing to go on record as, shall we say, opposing, if that is the word to use, what was told us by the representatives on that particular day. Does that surprise you?
I think it does. Like I said in my dear statement, I believe that the job of legislators is to represent the people and not, while yes, you're in the legislature and you have friends, you have people who you respect, you have senior colleagues and party loyalties and the like. I think the very first responsibility of every lawmaker is to the people we represent, and in this case, their state constituencies. Okay. And it's very important, and particularly the keys of Lagos, because Lagos is particularly taxpayer-driven, unlike the Nigerian economy itself. So, the IGL of Lagos goes ahead of many other states in Nigeria, just basically based on payee and taxes. So, in allegations like this come up, it's very important that legislators are able to know that their first responsibility is to the citizens. Now, to the issue of whether they can come on record and say, I think maybe that only come to the extent of which they know. And maybe I would like to give them a bit of laxity, I'm not sure, than say that some of them are not certain and do not have the resources of mistake. For this, I would say, and EIE would say, that if any of the lawmakers have any opposing view and are certain that they have other things that would then bring to light these situations, it's important for them to come forward and state it.
And say their piece. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Adeolu Adebayo, on the phone from, he's the creative associate at Enough is Enough Nigeria. Thank you very much for, making time for us this morning. We still have Mr. Gabriel Okeowo on the line, that is to say on the Skype line, and we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue with Mr. Okeowo and indeed your calls from home as well. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. Asukwa and I, we have Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, Principal Lead at Budget, and we'll explain how Budget concerns itself with actually holding government and its agencies accountable, you know, by and large, among other things. They also provide information, explain budgets and all of that. Mr. Okeowo, thank you for staying with us. As I put to Mr. Adebayo just before he left, and as I had said, we reached out, tried everything we knew how, but not a single legislator from the Lagos State House of Assembly wanted to come on and be put on record as being in opposition to all that was said by the representatives that did come on Friday. Now, does that surprise you?
It's not in any way surprise. We know how politics and politicians play their games in our climate. So it is not a surprise at all. However, we would have thought that we have gone past that stage where we'll be, you know, where we cannot really, as the public officials, right, we cannot come out to debunk whatever allegation that's been leveled against us. Yes, the speaker might have come out. I looked through his account yesterday. I saw him posting a picture of a Christmas party that one of the allegations said didn't hold. I saw him debunking some of the allegations that were leveled against him, but it is not enough to do that on social media, right? You should come out on a traditional media platform like this and talk to your people. If you can't come out, you have representatives, you have other members that can come and speak on behalf of the assembly, right? Most of the allegations that were levied, it wasn't the only one that is concerned with those allegations. There were members of assemblies that also have been also accused of collecting, you know, extra code in this period where government should even be more, you know, there should be some level of sobriety and level of consciousness in how we spend public resources in this period, looking at the effects of COVID-19 on the economy, and indeed the economy, both at the federal level and at the state level, right? Even Lagos State that boasts of huge IGR revenue, IGR collections, right? This season that we are in, there is a likelihood, high possibility that even Lagos State is going to feel its the effect of COVID-19 on its revenue. And so this is not that time that government will come out, right, to come and address the people. I see this same Lagos State House of Assembly talking to the executive, Mr. Governor, and cautioning him to be sure and know that he's going to come and give accounts to them on how he's expending all donations that is coming into Lagos State for in terms of response to COVID-19. So if you can put that on the executive, you should also be able to come out and justify your dealings also.
Oh, okay then. So we've opened the phones, you know, in case we're just to get commentary from outside there. Well, you know,
we have a call. We have a call.
No. Comrade LOREMIKAN, calling from IDIMU. Okay, good morning, comrade. Comrade, can you hear us? Because we can hear you. Hello. Looks like that's a problem. Is there a problem with that line?
I'm hearing your voice.
Well, okay, we can hear you too now. Did you want to make a comment? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you see, this issue of corruption, it's a very deep thing. Sometimes what you want to see has been kept under the table. The more you look, the less you see. But in terms of conventional acts, if there is no hidden agenda, you cannot make any expenditure without a budget appropriation and approval. From the beginning of the year, a good office must know what they want to spend for each subject line. And at the time you apply to request for release of funds, if the amount is available, it will be released to you. If the price has changed, you call for variation. But in a situation where you get the money, you spend it, and you now come back and say the amount you have spent is higher, that is fraud. You must get an approval before you say there is an increment.
Okay. Let me ask you the question too that I asked the other gentleman. We couldn't get anybody who wanted to identify as being on the other side, shall we say, of the conversation from that which was presented on Friday by, you know, by the duly, you know, appointed representatives of the House. Even though it's conceivable that there might be other people within the Lagos State House of Assembly that might see things differently from the way it was presented.
You see, I have been reading many documents from the House. And it's unfortunate that some of us running commentaries, we are not competent on the issue we are discussing. There is low financial literacy among many of us contributing. But when you look at the vouchers, they speak for themselves. If you have expended the money, there is a section they call retirement. The retirement can prove to us whether you did what you are supposed to do with public funds. But when you are only looking at documents about release of funds and there is no retirement, it will be difficult for you to have a balance. Any opinion you express may be biased.
Okay.
When you see the retirement, you can then know maybe what you are expected to spend public funds for, you have done it. The retirement can even show you who the contractor is. So you can approach the contractor and ask, if I really want to buy this product, how much is it?
All right.
And that will let you know whether inflation has been there or otherwise.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. LOREMIKAN, for calling in. And Mr. Okewo, you heard that. And you know the allegations were sort of varied, Mr. Okewo, that came from that are in the reports that are, you know, online. In fact, you know, I think there was one paper headline that said who wants who has it in or something like that for Speaker Mudashiru, you know, Obasa, those kind of things. Now, among the allegations were varied. Apart from financial impropriety, there were matters of you know, the Speaker allegedly, you know, using his own company to, you know, you know how that would go, deal with the assembly. But then that was countered for us by saying, look, you take some of, they said, that is those who are speaking on behalf of the assembly said, you can take some facts and then distort them grotesquely. That was how they put it. That yes, the Speaker does indeed have a company, but they asserted that not only had it not done, that company had it not done any business with the Lagos State House of Assembly, indeed it hadn't done any business with Lagos State itself. What do you think, sir?
So all of that is the arm of government or agency of government we are waiting for right now is the anti-corruption agency, right? We have the EFCC, we have the ICPC that have the authority to investigate matters such as this. And thankfully, one of the things that the federal government have done is the deployment of the BVN, right? And one of the allegations revealed to us that the BVN of the Speaker is linked to about 64 accounts.
Yeah.
So as it all the materials that is required to carry out investigation and the minimum debt review, debt investigation is available at the disposal of the anti-corruption agency.
One moment, please. One moment, please, Mr. Okewo. Can I bring on Mr. George, who has called in from Ikeja? Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Uncle Yori, I watched the repeat broadcast of last Friday's edition where you discussed this issue. And I have also followed the Sahara Reporters series of reports on the matter. I want to tell you that I'm inclined to believe the lawmaker who said last Friday that the whole matter is a political witch hunt. Why am I saying so? Nobody, including Sahara Reporters, was able to give an account of how much was budgeted for that subject matter and how much was spent. Was it an approved budget? Was there overspending of the amount? Is there any doubt that the programs or trainings did not take place? The Sahara Reporters itself confirmed that the travels were made. And the man who, one of the lawmakers who spoke on Friday, said, yes, he had to travel even twice for one cause. And he traveled the second time at his own expense because he had already spent what was budgeted for him for the trip in the first one that was cancelled. Sahara Reporters could not capture all that. If a budget has been made, and I think it is in that sense the speaker was telling Dele Momodu that money is meant to be spent. If you make a budget for training, for example, it's supposed to be used for the training. Is it not supposed to be spent? If it is not budget, I mean, if you don't want to spend money, why are you budgeting it? I think that is the sense in which the speaker was. I'm not his spokesman, but that's how I see it. That it seems is being misquoted.
Okay.
And these NGOs on Koyori that we keep on referring to, if you go and check, you will discover most of them are sponsored by politicians to withhold their political opponents. What is the truth of this matter? Where we are these NGOs when President was looting NNPs of billions of dollars. Up to now, Nigeria has not been able to retrieve any of them. Where were they?
Well, Mr. George, are you
Yes.
are you surprised that not a single member of the Lagos State House of Assembly wanted to come on record as saying that I see it differently?
Uncle Yori, that tells me that the whole allegation does not have any grounds because they are standing, in my view, they are standing on their feet to be challenged or to be, okay, Sahara Reporters could go to court if he has documents as he's claiming. And the court will now summon the legislators to come and defend themselves. Why have they done? Have they not done that?
Okay, then.
So the legislators probably don't want to just rock the boat unnecessarily and descend to the level of political touts.
Thank
That's
you.
the way I see it.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Okay, Mr. Okewo, I guess I've got to let you respond to the charge in there that a lot of the of advocacy groups like, well, he didn't specify yours, but he did say a lot of those groups actually are working at the behest of political opponents of whoever is in the crosshairs at the moment.
Okay, rather unfortunate. I won't stand here to speak for whoever is quoting, but as an organization, I stand to speak for the organization I represent, Budget, that as a matter of policy, we are not sponsored by any politician. And as a matter of fact, whatever we do for government, as we work with government across our federal, state, and local governments, we make it as a matter of policy for our organization not to collect money from government. And I stand to be corrected, right? But if we put that aside, having said that, coming back to his comments, unfortunately, right, and same as the speaker said yesterday in his interview, the question is going to be, is it spending outside budgetary allocation? If it is no, then he wants to capitalize on that. And that is why we have taken it as an organization to go from state to state, training. As I'm talking to you now, we have actually had in the last 1 month quite a number of virtual call and virtual training with state governments, training them on budget development process, because we understand that a whole lot of them from this month, they would have started the preparation for their next year budget. And that is in our quest for transparency and accountability at the sub-national level, right? At the sub-national level, there are processes that if governments are committed to pursuing undertaking those processes, it will reduce to a very large minimum cases of issues like this that we now have, where the subject, the public is able to track what is being planned. There is room is made for public hearing on budgets, right? Civil society media are invited during budget preparation process to also, and be part of defense of the project. I've been part of one or two in Nigeria.
Okay.
So we have discovered that even when some states go further to organize a budget defense meeting and they invite media and civil society, they still have a way of turning the figures at the end of the day. But this is just a platform, again, for us to advocate to Lagos State as a government, to advocate to House of Assembly, Lagos State House of Assembly, and indeed all state governments and all state House of Assembly to do what is right in the development of process, in the development of budgets, right? Budgets, as you are rolling out circular to MDAs to submit their budgets for a year, right? You are also making that available in the public, inviting the public, notifying the public, and letting us know, so that at that point, before a budget is passed into law or is assented into law, we can criticize and we can raise our comments as it can be.
Okay, let me bring on Frank now. Good morning, Mr. Frank. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I hear you.
Please go ahead now.
Yeah. I think the issue, the Lagos State of Assembly, is a serious one because budget and budget expenditure, particularly at the legislature, borders on the welfare of the people. And why this is also a serious one? The 40 members of the House of Assembly in Lagos, they were elected by the people. They were supposed to be representatives of the people. The first point I want to make is that if there is an allegation as widespread as this, it is beyond people denying. It is beyond people coming to tell us that it is not true. Because we were not privy to how those documents came out in the first instance.
But, Mr. Frank, sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Frank, very sorry to interrupt you, and you'll continue very, very shortly. Are you surprised that we couldn't get any legislator to come forward and be on record as saying that my presentation of the facts or the situation is different from that which was presented?
Well, for me, I think the issue really is, we know there is politics in everything in Nigeria. Even when people are not coming out to say something, it does not really mean that they don't have anything to say. There could be, a lot of reasons why people are not ready to say something. But the point I really want to make is this. The allegation at the State of Assembly has gotten to a point where the authorities that are responsible for investigations, the anti-corruption agencies, should come in and clear the air on what is happening at the Lagos House of Assembly.
Okay.
The public deserves to know the truth.
Indeed.
The public deserves to know the truth. Nobody is saying those that have been alleged are guilty. But the point is that those that have been alleged has a responsibility to clear their name.
Indeed.
And the only way they can clear their name is those in authority, in anti-corruption, to come out and feed the public back as to whether these allegations are true or false.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. Appreciate your calling in. Now, Mr. Okeowo, what does it take for bodies such as the EFCC to come into a matter? Do they also read papers and then decide from newspapers what they want to take up, or is there a more formalized way in which they come in? What's your understanding of how EFCC gets? Well, I don't know. Did they get invited into the matter, or how, or do they put themselves into the matter?
So ordinarily, if you look at, let's look at the recent activities of EFCC when they go after the so-called Yahoo boys, right? What legislation or what special invitation did they get before they took those actions, right? It could have just been a tip-off. It could have just been by observing the lifestyle of a group of people, and they go after them and apprehend them. They show them on TV, and we see all of that. In this case, I think from sources, information coming out from media, from that have been petitioned, we have written a press statement where we call on them, right? We call on EFCC and ICPC to come and investigate this matter, you know.
Okay.
And,
sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Let me quickly bring in Mazi Okoroafo. Good morning, Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu.
Good morning, Sayori. Honestly speaking, Sayori, what the speaker supposed to do is hire people, that's bring a TV show, other television houses, and gather people and come and show them this is what you did, this is how much you spend. Let the authority concerned, let them do and investigate. A situation whereby you see that it does not, because tomorrow matters. No matter whatever anybody will see today now, 6 weeks is a day. Because Nigeria have come to a level that nobody comes to, because Lagos State is a very big state, and all the other states in this country looks at Lagos State House of Assembly. So a situation whereby all this type of money, where are they going with this money? Let the young man just come. Look, if you feel that you have to step aside or throw in your towel and start so that that's very much have a blessed day in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mazi. I didn't get a chance to ask Mazi what his impression was of the fact that no legislator wants to come forward speaking against the positions that we heard on Friday. But at least Mr. Okewo has commented on that, and I think one or two other callers have also commented on that. You know, insinuating that, well, that might be as a result of politics. In fact, one person even put it that the fact that a person doesn't come out to speak does not mean that he has nothing to say.
Exactly.
Well, you know, I think we've just about used up all our time. We had extended the right of reply to anybody who wanted to take it up in the Lagos State House of Assembly as a legislator. There were no takers, and so we did the next best thing, which is, you know, people that are also interested in the matter, such as the civil society groups that you've spoken to. And in that regard, we want to thank Mr. Adeolua Adebayo, who is the creative associate at Enough is Enough. And indeed, we do thank you, sir, Mr. Gabriel Okewo, principal lead at Budget, for staying with us all through the program. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's our program then, Asukwa. I think we've got to make way for the next series of programs. Yeah. So please join us tomorrow, as we always say, for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folani. Bye-bye for now.